Welcome to the ByteofWhy Podcast, everybody. This Happy New Year 2021 to everyone. And we are pleased to be joined by our first guest of the new year. We have Tyler Corsair, who is the founder of Teslascope, which is a very popular data logging platform for anyone with a Tesla vehicle. And it's great to have you on the show, Tyler.
Thank you, and happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year, Happy New Year. Nash, all the way from down south. It's already 2 days into 2021 now for you. How's it been
That's
so
right.
far?
We are in the future. It's pretty good. Hindsight 2020, as they say.
Hindsight is finally 2020. That is right.
It's fine. Yes, it's finally hindsight 2020. We're far past that craziness of a year. It's a year that ought not to be in the history of things, but there we are. But anyway, we must say that Australia has been good. We have a few cases now, but not in the vicinity of the numbers that the rest of the world is seeing. So we are blessed, to be honest. And before I go, thanks KK for the cap. It's custom made. Really love it. Thanks, mate.
Wonderful. Yeah, special shout out to Cyril Wheeler, who got that done for us. Wonderful. Let's dive in. Tyler, why don't you give us an elevator pitch about Teslascope?
All right.
When it started, what got you thinking about starting the service, and what keeps you going?
So, as Teslascope is a kind of a worldwide focused access to your vehicle to be able to track your charging sessions, your driving sessions, to kind of dive in more and discover more about your vehicle in general, as well as kind of compare a lot of different statistics and things like the release notes and software and so forth, and a lot of other things beyond that. I began Teslascope because when I first got my vehicle, I'm very into kind of like metrics and analytics. So I kind of wanted to be able to have like a kind of a historical view of my experiences with my Tesla. When I first got my Model 3, I got it with the intention of trying to kind of going on road trips and exploring more of the country than I ever had been before. And I've succeeded at that so far. I've visited about 6-7 states in it. But I really wanted a kind of a beautiful way of visualizing all of that and kind of looking back at it. So I tried a couple of the services that were around a year or two ago when I first got my vehicle. I loved the functionality of them. I loved a lot of kind of what they offered and kind of explored the community, but none of them really hit exactly what I was looking for. So I began Teslascope as a passion project for myself. I kind of built exactly the things that I was looking for, that I kind of, as a Tesla owner myself, wanted to be able to see. And I posted just a few pictures here and there in a couple different communities, mainly on the Discord server for the Tesla subreddit. And people immediately started saying, "Hey, this looks great. I want to be able to try this," and so forth. We got floating wheels on the preview there.
Yep.
I wanted to be able to kind of bring exactly what people were in the community were looking for, different features that kind of other services have been missing out on, add dark mode because a lot of services didn't have that. And I work at night. I almost work all at night. So being able to look at my website and look at the things I'm working on and not hurt my eyes was super important to me and everyone else. And I just wanted, whenever I work on something, I always want to make the best possible experience for anyone who's using it. So in every regard, from both myself as a user of it every single day, but also for everyone else, I wanted to just create every kind of the Swiss Army knife of everything for Tesla owners. There's a couple things that I offer that are exclusive. There's a lot of other services that offer their own, exclusive and unique little quirks and so forth. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what got me into Teslascope and what keeps me going.
Fantastic. I think you really hit the nail on the head when I think the primary driving force is trying to create the Swiss Army knife for data analytics for those people who are really focused on the data, like yourself, and I would like to call myself as data heavy.
Right.
I think Nash as well. I think that's one of the primary driving forces behind why we started this podcast.
Absolutely.
Because we wanted to also dive into the data and extract insights that may otherwise not be really apparent. And a huge part into extraction of those insights is the data collection tools that we use. And and Teslascope is definitely one that I use for sure, and Nash as well. Fantastic. All right. So with that, let's just dive into a bunch of questions that we put together here. I think you answered the first one, which I have, like, from a global perspective. What does it take to set up Teslascope? But from a technical standpoint, let's keep this podcast a little technical. Let's dive deep into the.
Sounds good.
You want to go functions? You want to go code based? You want to go all that deep? Let's do it. Okay. So what does it? Talk us through a day in the life of a person who handles Teslascope. There's so many different features that come together to put together that web page that an end user sees, right?
Right.
Let's talk about the UI, UX, backend databases. Let's talk about monitoring services that you have running. Let's talk about how do you deal with crashes? How do you deal with services freezing? How do you deal with data not populating, corrupt fields in tables? Let's talk.
Right.
Let's go technical. I mean, let's do this for the viewers.
All right. So just from the ground up, Teslascope is powered through a kind of a framework called Laravel, which is a PHP framework. PHP itself is still used quite often by a lot of web services, but without using a couple of little things here and there, it's a little hard to work with. So I used Laravel to kind of make things in the whole experience coding a little bit easier. And every aspect of the service is coded through Laravel, both the backend and the front end. Even the vehicle polling infrastructure that I coded is all in Laravel. So having everything just in one place, all in a consistent programming language for me, it makes it so I can just kind of dive right in, know exactly what I'm working with, and have everything kind of in the same place. Teslascope is hosted through AWS. I utilize just a single EC2 instance for everything, web server, polling, and so forth. I think I utilize Elasticache, which is for Redis and kind of caching different information so that you don't have to hit the database as often. For the database, we use RDS, which is RDS Aurora, which is one of the, I guess, more premium offerings from Amazon. That just testing initially, that really helped with a little bit of the kind of throughput and getting things a little bit more responsive, which the faster the better in some aspects, but just I always like things being a little as quick and responsive as possible. The front end in the design is a little bit of a mix of Bootstrap was kind of the base layout, and then I've kind of worked on that over the years and over the time working on it, and kind of customized it a little bit. And let's see, kind of, can you ask kind of the same question again, or kind of anything else that I missed?
No, so this is.
I must say that the layout just looks amazing, and dark mode is just phenomenal. And because now our smartphones have such great resolution on the screens, it's just amazing. So I want to thank you for that first, mate. The way the website looks is just phenomenal. I had a sub question though. Is there a possibility, or are you looking into making like a PWA, a progressive web app in the future, so that it becomes agnostic to platforms?
Yes. So whenever I kind of dive into services, I always start with kind of a static site and focus at first. And then this next year, I'm going to be kind of revisiting every single website, converting a lot of the different kind of ways that data is accessed to different JSON APIs. And then every single aspect of the service will be the main things at first, then eventually everything else. But everything will transition so that everything on the page will be updated in real time. No need to refresh, no need to do anything. The data always there will just be kind of live and exactly what you are expecting, and if it's like live data or coming right from the vehicle. So that's building fun experience, making it a lot more responsive and just fast for everyone.
Interesting.
The reason why, sorry, KK. Just as a corollary, if you have a PWA, you can just wrap that into an app like quite easily.
that was that was an angle that I was initially exploring, and I there is like a very beta version of that is kind of a PWA in a sense, but
guys, you heard it here first.
not today. Not today, unfortunately. But adding functionality, kind of to build upon that web app is really important to me. And there's a couple little aspects that you can't do precisely with an PWA. So like having notifications that are native is really important to me. I want to be able to work on watch apps that work natively with that app as well. So if you have an Apple Watch or any of the Android Gear stuff or Android Wear, I think you'll be able to work on that. Having kind of things that work either with Siri or with Google to be able to have kind of things that build upon the experience, but still require a little bit more of a extensive build out, I guess, in a sense. But,
gotcha.
Yeah,
I think so. I've seen the trend. We went from web only to then progressive PWAs,
right,
to then going to iOS, Android, other ecosystems. Now people seem to be coming back to the PWA concept. I think
that's right.
There's something, I don't know it technically, but I think there's something in the ability to go in, troubleshoot, get patches and fixes out, and deploy new features that seems to be attractive about PWAs to developers going like,
absolutely.
like being platform agnostic.
Absolutely.
You know, there's one school of thought saying you need to be platform specific to deliver the best experience possible. And then there's one school of thought saying you need to be platform agnostic to get the experience, not the best need be, but the experience out to as many people as possible. Because there is no guarantee that the people out there are going to be running the latest and greatest firmware or software or even hardware devices that are latest gen. But we know for a fact the browser works everywhere.
Exactly.
So
when
I think, sorry, after you, mate.
When I first started working on the website with Teslascope, because it's based on Bootstrap, I was immediately able to make sure that everything worked and functioned and looked beautiful on mobile. I say about 63% of people on the internet currently just use mobile devices as their primary way of accessing things. So there were a lot of services. A lot of services are kind of already based on iOS or Android, but there were a lot that were web-based that just didn't look perfect or didn't look really good on mobile. You either have to zoom in all the way or just a lot of little things like that. So making sure that the website was responsive, making sure that you can kind of streamline and view things and so forth was really important to me. Just make sure that every single device, whether you're on a mobile device, a tablet or so forth, it works and it functions perfectly and beautifully. I will say, with Mark in the chat, with Tesla Tip, Tesla Tip looks beautiful on mobile, looks beautiful on all devices, but it just making sure you have that extensive, be able to support every device is a really, really great thing.
Now, I think it also boils down to the fact that Apple finally started supporting progressive web apps in a massive manner with the previous iOS, isn't it? It was not. It was not, I think was it iOS
13?
I think it was the previous one. Yeah. I think
13 dots, whatever. Yeah.
That's when they started really supporting progressive web apps. Till then, Safari was wishy-washy with regards to progressive web apps.
I recently entered the gaming sphere again, and I noticed that a bunch of support websites for the games I'm playing have PWAs that look beautiful. Like they try to emulate the in-game experience on the webpage with somewhat the same design aesthetic and the design ethos and the usability and the way the buttons look and things like that. It just adds a different flair to the whole experience. I think it does genuinely add that companion feeling to third-party apps, which otherwise come with a very different design ethos. And to bring it into vogue in the discussion we're having, when you are into the Tesla ecosystem, it's nice to have extensions of the Tesla ecosystem that feel like they belong. And I think the PWA experience and apps with a good design ethos only help contribute to that feeling and general acceptance from the public out there. Because like you mentioned, Tyler, I mean, you've started Teslascope a few years ago, right? And
just last or technically not last year now, but I think I started it in August of 2019.
So there you go. So you're just over a year and a half old.
Yeah.
Let's look at it that way for Teslascope. And I'm sure it must have been hard trying to get user acceptance, like to buy into the actual, let's download
yeah.
another service, let's log in, let's allow access. Which brings me to another question. Are you planning to go, how do you work on the security side of it? Like a lot of people have problems granting access to their Tesla credentials. Like,
Right.
I personally
more than
don't.
problems.
Yeah, go ahead.
The more than problems, they are not completely informed. So I think it'll be best if Tyler tells it, in the way that it's most conducive for people to understand what it involves.
So basically, to summarize the question, I guess it would be, how do you handle security on Teslascope? Like,
Right.
How is the user's credentials protected or used or not used?
Not used, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So to kind of just give a kind of a preface to everything before we dive into security, when connecting to your Tesla, when interacting with your vehicle, just for those who aren't technical or to kind of give a little more of an explanation, you have to essentially grant access and to authorize access to both your vehicles as well as your Tesla account. And to do so, there's been kind of two methods. They both route to through the same way eventually, but two methods that a lot of apps have pretty much historically used for access, granting and be able to then have access to your vehicles. The first step is either directly providing your credentials through the website, and when that happens, the credentials at no point are ever stored on the actual server itself. They're immediately sent to Tesla. Tesla brings back and gives us a kind of either if it's succeeded, it gives us a valid access tokens. Those tokens are then immediately encrypted, put into the database. And from that point on, every single request that has anything to do with the Tesla account, whether it's just checking if you have vehicles on the account, checking the status of your vehicle, requesting for access for all the different data and so forth, all of that comes from that one encrypted key. It's decrypted on every single request, so it adds a little bit more CPU usage by doing so. But by doing so, you're able to keep everything secure. No credentials are ever stored that way. So if there's obviously every service prays that you never end up having anyone break in or hack into anything. But with that in mind, if that were to happen, everyone's data and information is safe that way. Another really important thing to me was at no point anywhere on the website are you actually able to access your stored access tokens. So that, let's say that someone else, just a single user's credentials are compromised, or they use the same password somewhere else and their information leaks, and someone else tries to access their Teslascope account. Nowhere on that website or on Teslascope is someone able to say, okay, I'm going to take this person's access tokens, put it onto my own app, or take it elsewhere. Now all of a sudden I know where this person's been. You're able to, by doing so, you're able to restrict access to things, keep everything kind of exactly in one place, and have it a lot more kind of locked down on where data is accessed, and only intended for just the person who obviously owns the account.
How often do tokens expire?
When when you first create a token, I think they expire with about 45 days. But I have a kind of a script that runs every single day. It checks when how many tokens are going to be expiring soon, and it essentially randomly refreshes them. I think it's either between 3 to 7 days prior to when they would normally expire, and it just continuously does that in a kind of an automated manner, so that the functionality is always working for users.
Awesome. So it's not incumbent on the user to log in or log out and refresh the token. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I have a new question which is out there. Many people have this question. Some of my close friends who are Tesla users have this question as well. The question they have is, so let's say any service, Teslascope for that matter, authenticates via a token,
right?
But the token gets compromised for some reason. Will having a two-factor authentication help them protect their data? For instance,
on the
Tesla accounts.
Right. On the Tesla account or on Teslascope?
On Tesla account. So let's say,
okay.
So for some reason the token on Teslascope gets compromised, but the people have a two-factor authentication on the Tesla accounts. Will it help them protect the data?
So at this point, Tesla, and this is there might be a couple little call outs here and there to kind of the practices that Tesla has implemented, but at this point, for whatever reason, Tesla does not fully implement the two-factor authorization that you're able to set up on your account. It is used when you first log in. It's used for making purchases and a couple other kind of things where if something were to happen, it's very hard to kind of revert the change. But once you authenticate a account to any of the third-party services or even the Tesla app itself, that access is kind of permanently granted. So even if you do enable 2FA and you didn't have it originally, it will actually invalidate every single account or every single service that was using that token. It will just instantly do so. Same thing with changing your password on your Tesla account. If you change your password, even if it's the same thing, I don't know if they allow the same password, but if they were to do so, every single service, including the Tesla app that utilized those tokens, is immediately invalidated. So you immediately are able to restrict access to everything. And if you ever have a hunch that one of your tokens has been compromised in any way, as long as you have access to your Tesla account, which no service, including those credentials, would be able to actually have someone get into your account. You also can't get into the Tesla.com website with access tokens. The access tokens that are generated are just used for accessing the vehicle data. That's essentially anything that you see through the Tesla mobile app is the only kind of data that we can request as third parties.
Interesting.
So in essence, can we say?
Oh, go ahead, Nash.
No, sorry, Mike. In essence, can we say that it is only the API data that's being accessed by any website which has authentication, and not the
Correct.
actual Tesla account itself, just the API data?
Yes.
The one which Tesla chooses to expose. That's the one, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. In a technical terms, we both Tesla as well as we call that the owner's API. And that owner's API is kind of the only data that we're able to request for the same reasons. Like I'll occasionally get emails and say, "Hey, can you access my supercharging records for the Tesla website and automatically pull that into my account?" And for the same reasons that we only have access to certain information, that usually, and the answer ends up being no for that, at least for the moment, until Tesla provides that through the app or another experience.
I'm going to make note of a question we're going to ask later, though. KK, after you.
Interesting. I have noticed that some websites, some other data loggers allow you to use your own token.
Right. Yes.
Can you just walk us through a quick, in a nutshell, what does that mean? Why would I ever need to generate my own token, and how that works?
So as I said before, there's two methods. There's the providing of your credentials, and when you do so, we kind of take those credentials and immediately generate the tokens. But when you provide your tokens itself, a lot of people who are into security will prefer that, and the reason so is at no point are those credentials ever touching the server. When you have to log in through a third party where you are providing your credentials, there's still a kind of a temporary request that gets sent through where they have to at least see that data, send it to Tesla, and then get those tokens back. But by providing your tokens, you actually are just skipping that whole step. You're just kind of skipping one or two of the steps, and directly providing that token to that service to be able to utilize and use to access your vehicle.
Is that something that Teslascope supports today?
Yes.
It does support to be able to provide your own token?
Yes.
Okay.
When you first sign up for the website, there's kind of two little windows. One allows you to provide your credentials, but the other also allows you to provide a token that you've generated. And there's actually a guide directly on Teslascope that kind of walks you through the exact steps, exactly what you have to type in, exactly what you have to do on your own computer, so that everything is handled exactly through yourself for generating the tokens.
Got it. And it's a one-time exercise, correct? So you'll keep refreshing the token internally with your script, but we won't have to keep providing you with the token every 45 days, for example, right?
Exactly. A couple services, what they'll do is they'll take that token, and that's the token that they'll utilize. And as soon as it expires. But what we found, what I found is a lot of people will take those tokens, use it for different services, but the second that service, either something goes wrong or they refresh it themselves, every other service that uses that token immediately no longer has access. So what we did, and what actually a couple of services kind of followed the same route, is you only have to provide the refresh token. When you generate your own tokens, you're actually given two of them. One is the access token, and one is a refresh token. And that refresh token is essentially just used for generating a new set of access tokens. And once you do that process, that refresh token that you provided is immediately invalidated, so that only that service that generated those tokens is then able to use them from that point on. And that was really important because I like things just always functioning, less questions having to be asked, and just second that the user signs up, they can expect that everything is going to continue working, as kind of as they intended without having to touch anything. So yeah, the second that you provide a token, it's immediately used to generate those tokens, and then from that point on, that same cycle of refreshing kind of begins at that point.
Got it.
And in the future,
Awesome.
will there be any support for PHP? What is it called? PHP passwords. PHP password support.
I don't know.
Like PHP encrypted keys.
Not at this time. I definitely look into it, but I know there's a good divide of both the very technical and the just kind of everyday user, and I kind of find a good kind of middle ground for everything. Yeah,
sure. Fair enough. Yeah,
perfect. Let's go on to our next question. I think you answered this two-part. You answered the one part. What are you using, AWS or Azure or Google? You're using AWS.
Right.
And how do you optimize the cost-benefit equation?
I was going to ask that question as well.
In order to ensure scalability and redundancy, at the same time keep the cost low. But and when you pass that cost on to the end user, right? Like to cover for the cost of setting up and maintaining the hardware. The backend.
Right.
Do you have? Can you talk us through about how you tackle the scalability problem? Now, congratulations on stellar 2020, by the way. As you posted on with your tweet. How have you scaled up as you've seen the number of the users in your user base increasing over the year?
So performance and efficiency was something that I tackled very, very early on Teslascope. I'd say like within the first 3 months, that was the number one thing that I was working on and kind of focusing on, because I realized, as the user base would grow, as there's more vehicles being updated and interacted with, performance and making sure that things would scale would be very, very vital. There was even a point, I think, within the first month where when things weren't efficient, when things weren't going as efficient and performant as they could be, there definitely was some scary signs of is this even gonna work? Is this gonna just immediately cost way too much and not be a viable thing? So I spent many nights, many weeks just really tackling, getting things to be as efficient, getting costs down, making it, because as a little bit of transparency, Teslascope is my main source of income, and thus any expenses that come out of that income obviously is trying to keep that low is obviously essential, but also just really important. And so thus a lot of things I looked at, and I before I even began Teslascope, I looked at a lot of the open source projects in regard to Tesla. There's a great one called TeslaMate, a couple others, and I also looked at the different services. I even reached out to a couple of the developers, including like Teslafy, and I kind of obviously not every developer is going to share their secret sauce or their details, but I kind of inferred the ways that they structured everything in the database, the ways that they handled polling, and I took from there kind of little bits and pieces I could, and what I know myself as a developer, and I was basically able to, within the first couple months, make a very, very, very efficient vehicle polling infrastructure, where every single minute, every single vehicle is, it kind of determines whether it should be updated or not. There's about 12 different things that it checks for, a bunch of little bells and whistles in here and there, but a lot of the little bits and pieces that I was able to incorporate were a lot of services. They will essentially just store everything all in one table. So you have every single, kind of to mimic the Tesla API, you have every single value just in a single table across the way. And that's great when you need everything, but when you aren't always going to need that information, otherwise things aren't always going to be updated in that manner. That's just a lot of extra data. You're having to send a lot of extra data that you have to work with to have to access. There's cost to all that, kind of that back and forth. And so very early on, I structured the database to kind of have everything very modular. So every single vehicle state, which is kind of what Tesla calls the different aspects of the data. So there's a drive state for when you're moving around. There's a charging state that gets populated with a bunch of the different charging information. There's a vehicle state, which is kind of the random vehicle information bits and pieces. and making everything modular so that I could just access exactly what I needed to be able to, for things for, checking the status of things, whether the vehicle was driving or not. Made things so much more performant, and just be able to kind of exclude things that didn't need to be updated and so forth.
I got to give you a shout out for using Mapbox as your map service.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is so smooth. Like, I love how the maps just work with Mapbox. Right. It's
I love the theme, like being able to theme everything with Mapbox, and just I've used Google Maps my whole life, and every service prior to this is the first one I used Mapbox on. So I'm still learning here and there, but I loved how beautiful the maps looked. I loved how how just everything across the board looked great.
Yep, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Okay, awesome. So
the layout of the website also is amazing. I really like the way the whole website is laid out right from the sign-in page, where it says, this is not an official Tesla account. You should not be using your credentials here. I like all of that. It's sort of on your face disclaimer that no one can ignore. It's not buried under a lot of text. It's all up front and center. And even the way it says, sexy at tesla.com, that looks really gorgeous too. I really like that finesse and touch. Really like that.
Are you planning to allow customizable tiles on the page itself?
Oh yeah, so this year, or sorry, I shouldn't say this year. 2020. 2020 was very focused on getting the core functionality down. So getting everything regarded to charting, everything down to driving, kind of getting the pages and everything else laid out. That was my main focus. I wanted to offer every single thing that Tesla kind of vehicle owners were expecting through any of these third-party apps. And this following year is going to be really focused on customization, personalizing the experience on Teslascope to be exactly what you're looking for. Towards the end of last year, I implemented this thing called different vehicle dashboard options. So in vehicle settings, if you drive a vehicle often, you can see everything you want. There's an option for if you either aren't driving a vehicle right now, or if it's like, say it's in a garage, there's an inactive vehicle option where you can just hide everything you want besides just the vehicle's name and kind of basic information. That was the very start of it. But yeah, next year there'll be a lot more customization, from being able to customize everything, be able to pick and choose exactly what you want to see when you first go onto the Teslascope website, and just in general, I really love and be able give control about making We talked a little bit about this before the podcast started, but making the experience personal, to just you and your vehicle, or the vehicles that you have, because the Tesla vehicle allows you to have so much more control than any other vehicle prior. I'm sure there will be more vehicles and more things in the future like that, but I've loved my experience with my Tesla. I love being able to kind of make it my own, and in the same ways with Teslascope, I want to be able to contribute in those ways as well. I do want to say really quickly, I say Mark said nice tequila, and we just got that yesterday. So it's coming out to people in California, and a little bit. It started on the East Coast and coming to the West Coast now. I think Mark got his just a day before mine, but yeah,
you lucky West Coast buggers. Lucky. I don't think it'll come to Canada. I think we might get the bottle for posterity.
Right.
Yeah. I just want the bottle anyways in Australia.
Hey, it's fine. Apple juice. Apple juice, and it'll look exactly the same.
I'll probably do that myself.
We got a question from Mark here.
Yes.
Any plans to include other Tesla products that are coming through the API, such as Solar, Powerwall, and Cybertruck in the future?
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually been working, I'd say the last 6 months, I've been working with about 3 or 4 individuals who were very gracious to allow me to access their Tesla accounts and kind of use it as a kind of starting ground to actually work on solar focuses. Tesla does offer kind of a lot better of a data access to things in regard to solar than they do with the Tesla vehicle stuff. So with solar, you already kind of can go back in time and view the last, I think it's like up to 30 days of your energy usage and so forth. But there are kind of very prototype things in work to be able to offer things in regard to solar, to regard to the Powerwall. There'll be some public statistics. So as more people get solar, you'll be able to see, how much electricity was generated throughout the day, the average usage and so forth. I've been trying to get in the process of getting the solar panels on my house as well, because I'm unfortunately part of an HOA. They do legally in California, they are required to allow it, but my HOA fortunately has always been a interesting time to work with, to say the least. So as soon as I get that working and I have my own access to things, it'll make that development experience a little bit more just all in house, and make it a little. I'm very fortunate, and I appreciate the individuals who've been willing to let me access everything and kind of use their data to build this out. But as with my own vehicle and kind of being able to use it as kind of my own little guinea pig, it makes development a lot easier to have your own data to work with. I suppose. Yeah.
I'm sure everyone will agree that access to data is king in today's world, and the more the merrier, especially when you're building out a system. Not part of my original questions, but how do you do load testing? How do you do stress testing on your servers?
The biggest thing that brings down a site nowadays is just database hits. You can a well-tuned server can handle quite if it's really well-tuned, it can handle quite a few thousand requests per second. I haven't looked at I utilize Cloudflare for both the security and protection, but also just for analytics as well. And I'd say we get about 25 million to 35 million requests per 30 days. And that includes just people on the website. That includes API calls. That doesn't include the Tesla interactions. That doesn't include with the data that Tesla's sending back and forth, but just people or other sources requesting that. So it gets a good amount of better requests. I think we went down for about 1 hour as the holiday updates were coming out, and we were just getting hammered with things. There was a single little bit where I wasn't caching something, so people were hitting the database a little bit more. But a lot of load balancing things can really just be resolved just by making sure that things that don't need to be always current, if it's okay for something to be about a minute or two behind, just the first request, caching it so that every request from subsequent requests is just hitting that same data, not longer hammering the database, and that way you're able to just provide everything kind of fluidly.
Why I asked you is because it's a very common practice in when you look at the infrastructure, they ask you how many units you can support. And usually a lot of people don't have the right answer. They can't even guess, because especially small people who start small, right, and then expand out, we don't really know, because if you've deployed 1,000, you can't really say it can support 40,000 because you've never deployed 40,000. You don't have the resources to load test 40,000 unless you can create a script that will push the data to your server in the back end and test it offline. Kind of okay, I can handle the load with this kind of latency.
So I have two answers to that. In regard to the website, so the user facing things, I did some initial pen testing, both myself as well as I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of people within the industry. I have someone who was an ex-Googler who I've worked with and kind of gotten tips from. Another person who's worked for Facebook briefly, and I'll kind of come to them and with either advice or questions at times. Right. And so there was a point where I think we hammered Teslascope about 6 months ago with a bunch of requests and kind of upped it as time. And I think we got up to 30,000 normal requests per second before it's even started to just buckle a little bit.
Oh, nice. That's pretty robust.
Obviously, if someone really wants to, attack the service, obviously, I can always ban IPs or so forth through Cloudflare, and Cloudflare does a really good job of preventing that as well. That's the first part in regard to the website. In regard to the back end, because there's the vehicle infrastructure and the interactions with Tesla. And in that regard, so I think I said it earlier, everything on Teslascope runs through a single EC2 instance, all one server. There's no other kind of things to that. And at this point, that server is only running at about 20 CPU. I don't reserve the instances, so I think as soon as you hit 40 CPU is when the CPU credits, I think the term for it, starts to kind of go down, and you have to eventually upgrade the server that you have. But essentially, if things go well, I should not have to actually touch or upgrade the infrastructure at all until I essentially double the amount of vehicles that we have on our service. So we'll be able to get to the 12, 15,000 vehicles before we have to really look into additional costs and so forth or anything. So the costs for Teslascope will just continue to kind of remain the same, besides the very, very gradual database increase.
Interesting.
I have a corollary to that question, and this was the question that I was going to ask earlier as well. Now, just circling back on security, can is Teslascope vulnerable to brute force attacks, as well as the second part of the question is man in the middle attacks? Because that's the question that all my friends have as well. Most of my friends have some degree of technical knowledge, you see. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a very moderate I guess view and understanding of a lot of things. I'm only very moderate with system administration things. When I first set up the servers, well, everything else, I actually did work with someone else who does work in the infosec industry. They gave a bunch of pointers, gave recommendations for access, actually helped with me getting things set up. So in terms of actually direct access to things, everything should be absolutely fine. There's no access to the actual database remotely as well. Everything has to go through the server. So as long as the server is fine, actually essentially direct access to the database is always safe. Laravel itself prevents essentially every type of SQL injection, which is another very common thing on the internet. Not as common today, but that's usually a method that a lot of bad actors use for trying to access data that they shouldn't. In regard to brute forcing, everything that is brute forceable it does have either rate limiting implied, or there's things on Cloudflare that are watching over those little endpoints. Teslascope, there's a lot more services now, but Teslascope was one of the first services to implement a two-factor authorization prior to even Tesla doing so. So if someone has that enabled as well, that is very much not brute forceable, and that there's a rate limit to that applied as well, and just the general safety of having another set of another gate to go through.
Yeah,
I think
overall, internet.
There's one thing, Tyler. Sorry, Nash. I had to bring this up because there's one unsung hero website that you guys have come up with. Is basically to unlock your car using Teslascope. That's a huge deal. Like, just
right.
I think it gets very little attention, but I think you can bring it up if you have the URL real quick. Do you know what the URL is, like, Tyler?
Oh, it should just be unlock. I think it's either unlock my Tesla or unlockyourtesla.com.
So while you guys are figuring that out, I think what has also happened in the last 5 years is, ever since iCloud had that brute force attack,
right,
things have changed for the good. I mean, yeah, that was a good one.
This is actually very cool. So to be able to gain access to your Tesla if you've been locked out, or it's actually very awesome. I actually tried this once and it was really rad. Can you give us a bit about what got you into building this as well?
Yeah, so Teslascope obviously offers a lot of things, but not everyone's into statistics, and not everyone wants to either participate in a platform or otherwise just be involved, I guess, in a community like that. So there were still a lot of people who had an interest to be able to essentially, if you can do the same thing with Teslascope, but if someone doesn't want to have to create an account and all that, the hassle of verifying an email and so forth, and you're just trying to get into your vehicle, I created this for that kind of that focus. There's two individuals who are both Tesla service employees who I speak to a lot, and I would say one of them is a really good friend, and they brought up a lot that people will often call Tesla just to unlock their vehicles, just because whether they left their key fob inside the car or their phone is dead, so they have to borrow someone else's phone. And not only do you have to call, you have to wait on the line. If it's a busy day, you might be on the line for 30-45 minutes. Not all the time, but definitely depending on where you are. Whereas, if you just need to get access to your vehicle because you locked yourself out, just be able to provide your, the credentials, log in, immediately be able to, unlock your vehicle, lock it again, And then the second that after 30 minutes of you not being on this website, it will automatically invalidate the session as well. And there's also a little button that lets you click on it that will immediately invalidate it as well. And so this is essentially, it's powered by Teslascope and kind of this exact same authorization method that you use when you connect your account. But it's a single time, just a little bit of a utility to get people back into their vehicles, reduce a little bit of the call traffic and call volume that Tesla gets. Got a couple. I've gotten one confirmation that it was used, and then the person told the Tesla service individual that they had used it. So I got one little thing for that. That's all. If I can help one person, then that's all that matters to me.
That's awesome.
I think Mark has got a sort of a follow-up question. So he's asked, would Teslascope consider partnering with Tesla or being bought by Tesla? I mean, we don't want it to be bought by Tesla. I'm not a great fan of OEMs sherlocking hardware nor software features. I don't like OEMs doing the Sherlock for all the features. I mean, Apple is famous and Google is famous too. I mean, Apple is infamous for sherlocking all the good ideas that have come out from the App Store.
The thing though is that I think looking at this, this is my opinion. I think Tesla has a lot of people monitoring different platforms and different at different things to see what's out there in the industry. It's just my opinion that I think they want the industry to flourish. I think the data is the new oil, and I think the next supply chain is going to be a data supply chain. And Tesla can't build, Elon says this frequently, they can't build everything in-house. They've got to build the best car experience, and they have only finite focus. They need to have razor-sharp focus on building the best user experience for the vehicle, for the customer in the vehicle. Right. And there's more than enough Tesla people, Tesla owners out there, like me, like ourselves, and Tyler here, who's gracious enough to actually keep this his full-time project, his full-time job, to actually build out data analytics. So I think that, but there's also a flip side where Elon does say that Tesla is a collection of microcosms of multiple small companies working on different specialities. The possibilities are endless, right? We could theorize and hypothesize on how Teslascope could get integrated eventually into Tesla as the data analytics team at some point. Who knows?
Right.
What would happen at that point? I'm not sure. But anyway, that's an interesting question to pose and ask. But Tyler, you can give us a hypothetical response if you feel fit.
So I will, from the ground up, I'll say when I was worried about this too, or I was worried in regard to Tesla and kind of the third parties initially. And before I worked on Teslascope, I actually reached out to someone who was an engineer. One of my childhood friends was a engineer at Tesla, and I kind of asked them a little bit of information. I was like, "Hey, do you think there's a chance that Tesla will shut this down or otherwise not like this?" Because services like Teslafy have been around for I think 3-4 years prior. They had at no point did it seem like Tesla had ever taken action against them. So once I got that reassurance, I dove in, and even recently, I can't state who said this because it was kind of told to me in confidence, but Elon has communicated both publicly as well as privately that awesome. That builds upon the owner experience is good. Tesla views anything that is positively impacting their customers, their vehicle owners, is something that is they're either indirectly going to support or directly support, and thus a lot of these third party services, as long as they're doing the right things, as long as they're keeping data secure and safe, as long as they're treating their customers happy, that's more or less the end goal of Tesla. Now to answer, sorry.
Go ahead. Continue.
To answer Mark's question, so this is something that I'll share here because I have stated it publicly a couple times. I don't think on Twitter yet, but it is. And I hate to share this too, Nash, because I know that's something that you brought up, but I actually have a wholehearted goal of Tesla acquiring Teslascope at some point, and my goal is to sell it for $0 because I built Teslascope with the intention of just creating something that is good, is a benefit to all Tesla vehicle owners. I didn't start with this with the intention of it being my full-time job. I've loved working on it, and I love working on it every single day. But my end goal is to see either through acquiring Teslascope or otherwise Tesla building something itself. Third-party services like this, kind of the things that they offer, is something that a lot of vehicle owners want. Collectively, every single third party's users combined makes up about 5 to 7% of every single Tesla owner. So about 5 out of 10, every 100 vehicle owners that exist all around the world use one of these services. So my goal is to see something like this incorporated into the kind of the Tesla ecosystem, possibly offered through the premium connectivity. So you're already paying $3 to $5 for all these services, to kind of incorporate that into the things you're already getting through the premium connectivity that way. But I love building experiences. I love building anything that betters the experience for vehicle owners in any way. And if Tesla can provide something in that kind of that exact same manner, that's I'm happy at the end of the day.
Okay, I have a follow-up question.
Of course.
If Tesla is watching, I hope the latter is the truth. So would you want to be acquired or acquired?
If Tesla is willing to give me kind of artistic direction and freedom over the project, I would love that. But I have my goals set elsewhere. I love working. I love creating projects for myself, and I love having that that freedom of things like that. So if Tesla were to be able to provide that for me, I would love to continue to work on Teslascope as kind of under the Tesla guys as a sort. But
no,
yeah.
I asked this question for one reason. I'm sure you know of Anantech, the Apple guys. Anantech was hired by Apple eventually after doing years and years of exemplary work outside the Apple sphere. So yeah, you never know.
You never know.
I'm hopeful. If there was any interest in that, I'm hopeful, and I'm hopeful that things would be good. My only request is that I don't want the experience to ever degrade. I don't want that kind of experience. The topic of an acquisition to ever take away from the experience currently offered through Teslascope, or take away from the experience that are things that are currently offered. I want things to be accessible. I want things to be kind of the exact same experience. And if Tesla can do so and bring it in house and build upon it in some way, and either more data access that we can't access, that's all the better.
And knowing Tesla, having watched Tesla all these years, they probably will keep the experience virgin. I think so.
Yeah.
I think
one thing to add real quick.
Go ahead.
I say, so Tesla technically does know about Teslascope. They know about they know about pretty much every service. But one thing that I'll share, because it also was shared publicly at one point, and this is in the Discord server. Teslascope, in addition to Teslafy and a couple other services, mainly the ones that have been more notable, is currently mentioned in one of the internal documents at Tesla in regard to their employee full self-driving program. So, and it's distinctly in the notion of do not use this if you are an employee. Primarily, Tesla, in case there are little secrets that show up on the data access, they don't want any of the third-party services to see that. But as of I think it was like July of last year, Teslascope is now included on that document. So I've made it somewhere, and it's not necessarily a bad thing either. It's saying, hey, this service exists. If there was anything negative, they would have taken action.
So just to summarize that point, if any of us gets the FSD beta, we would not be required to cancel our Teslascope subscription, or not be required to stop Teslascope from polling our vehicles, correct?
So
you won't believe this kept me awake one night because I was dreaming about FSD beta. All right, I've been having those, like, Franklin Motherfrunker takes it to the whole extreme on Twitter, and Tesla Gong tries.
Also hashtag
FSD
beta Canada.
Yes, and FSD beta Aussie. Yes. And this was one thing I kept thinking about. I'm subscribed to, I think, the plethora of services available. I love data, so I'm subscribed to everybody to see who offers what. And would I need to stop the vehicles from polling my device? The services from polling my vehicle while during the duration of the beta, while being a beta tester?
So there's a correct answer, and then there's another answer.
Okay.
So the correct answer is Tesla. Technically, as part of the NDA, you are supposed to unlink all third parties, as Mark just said. And I think at least in one initial email, it does state that. It says, do not use a couple certain services. I don't know if Teslascope was included on that, but obviously it would include Teslascope. And that's mainly just to respect their NDA in case there is any data that would seep through. Now, that isn't always followed. Both on Teslascope as well as the Teslafy. There are still a few individuals, and it's just full transparency. Every request that Teslascope sends, Tesla is aware of, and we send headers and stuff. So, if Tesla ever really wanted to cut connection to those vehicles, they could. There are a couple full self-driving beta members on Teslascope, but I distinctly last year I developed a toggle in the advanced section of vehicle settings where now I of what I've been able to kind of get out of Tesla and communicate is the biggest thing that they don't want is the versions showing up. They don't like when any of the the early access program things regarding to software show up on any of the third party services. So what I did is I made a little toggle where if you are part of an early access program, you can check that, or you can do it's actually you're disabling it. And by disabling this, you're disabling every aspect of software logging in regard to your vehicle, so that if you are on the beta and you get an update, it's not going to show up on the tweets. It's not going to show up on any of the publicly accessible things. It kind of keeps your data still exactly just for yourself, but it continues to exclude yourself, so that you're never essentially alerting other people that hey, there's a full someone on early access on the program. Because for me, just because you joined the early access program, just because you joined the beta, should not mean that if you were using a third-party service and you enjoy it and you love it, and that was kind of what you were going through, that you should have to give that up.
Yeah.
Now, again, correct answer is you aren't supposed to, and so as this is my message. If you are on the early access program, do not use Teslascope, or I recommend against it, but. There's no way for us to determine if someone is on the program. There's no flags or anything in the API that distinguishes that. So there could be more. There's at least 3 that have communicated that to me, who have reached out themselves. But they all are, as of a little bit into last year, they all are now have their software logging disabled, because previously there was one individual who kept it on, and that was how we were able to get some of the tweets in regard to the full self-driving beta to show up. But that's now been resolved, and awesome. They are disabling it.
I've got 2 questions. One is from Mark in the comment.
Yeah, I have a piggyback question to that. So
go ahead, Nash.
All right. So that's the question that Mark is asking. Is there anything you wish they add to the Tesla API? And my piggyback question to that was, do you wish Tesla to expose autopilot API? I would love to know how many kilometers I did on autopilot in a run.
Somebody asked Elon, like I've asked him a few times, and I think I tweeted it to him a few times, and lots of people want to know what kind of mileage they're using on driving on autopilot. Is that something you're able to discern from the data?
So that isn't something we were able to concern, but that was the exact thing I was going to say before you mentioned autopilot. That's the number one thing that comes to mind when I think of what the API is missing. Just knowing if we're on autopilot or not, because then if you're visualizing it, you can see hey, how long was someone on autopilot. You can show a little different color for that stretch of road or so forth. And it just there's a lot of people who are kind of guesstimating how many miles have been driven on autopilot, but just having access to that data. Even if they were to show it on the app, if they were to say on the mobile app, hey, this person's on autopilot, that would immediately allow for us to be able to show that and access that data.
I just want to add one small point. A bunch of us here, YouTubers here in Australia, we do something called Urban Autopilot Challenge. So every time a software drops in, so we take the car out on the same route every single time, and we look for autopilot disengagements in that route to see how many times we had to disengage autopilot. Of course, there are small variations with people following traffic rules and the crazy drivers. We call them hoons here in Australia. So crazy drivers driving badly, but taking all that out of the equation, we look at what autopilot itself does in a particular stretch of road.
Right.
So we do that over and over and again. More of what is it called? a sequence of establishing the iterative enhancement or improvements in autopilot. And this will be fantastic, as Mark says, autopilot odometer. That'll be a brilliant
Oh yeah.
a brilliant metric to have access of.
Another thing I see there's a massive gap is what is displayed on the phone app versus what is displayed in the vehicle. For example, just something simple as the cards. The cards, if I was able to see the cards like on my phone, it would be nice to be able to share with the public that, okay, look, I've done 14,000 miles and here's my watt per mile. I have to actually go to my car and take a photo of that card because that doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah. Actually, so yeah, another good point is having more metrics in regard to charging. So currently, like one criticism that I always have a lot of other services that this is something that I actually don't include currently on Teslascope as well, is there is no definite accurate way of determining the actual kilowatt per mile usage for while you're driving. A lot of services will kind of guess it. They'll take what the battery should be or what they think it is and kind of go from there. But in every experience, that it either is perfect for some people or it's completely off for others. And for me, I like everything being, what you see is exactly what you should expect. And so if there's any little things like that, I at least currently exclude it until I can find a definite way of implementing that correctly. So that would be another great thing to include.
Autopilot that alone has left so much room for inference.
Yes.
I think that'll be a massive year if Tesla opens out the autopilot information on the API. That would be fantastic.
I want one more feature to be added, to be honest. I'm not sure if it's possible now with the current set of data. I would like to know, because we have Tesla superchargers and other DC fast chargers. I would love to know what how many times I've used the Tesla superchargers versus the DC non-Tesla DC fast chargers, because our DC fast chargers are 22 kilowatt, 50 kilowatt, and 350 kilowatt. So we have a wide breadth. We have a wide breadth of DC fast chargers as opposed to Tesla superchargers, which are only 130 kilowatts. So it says 150 versus 130 kilowatts. 150? We don't have V3.
Oh, true.
Yes, we have V2. We don't have V3.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. And it's a game changer. V3. Like, you guys will abandon the V2s like so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to. We want to, but we don't have V3s. Even the new supercharger, which was established in Sydney in March of last year, did not have V3. It was all V2. There are 2 blank bays in the Sydney supercharger in the supercharger array. We don't know V3. But
the Shanghai factory. The Shanghai factory now has a dedicated little, like, they're building out a building where they're dedicated to just building superchargers. I forget the metric. I want to say it was like they expect to make either 20 or 30,000 stalls every year just from that little building.
It would be nice to have a supercharger parkade. It would be nice to have a supercharger parkade. Like, that would be sick. Like, just an entire parkade full of superchargers. I'm guessing if it could be a reality. I mean, look at California, for example, the highest density of Teslas, or Norway for something like that.
China, 37 superchargers or something, isn't it?
They just came out with a 72 stall or charger.
That's insane.
That's insane.
The UI almost takes up like a fourth of the screen, and just the little like dots for accessible.
Yeah, that would be perfect. 2 points before we wrap up for today. Mark mentions that also local data would to retain would be nice.
Yes.
That's one. The second is, I have one last question for you, Tyler, about data and where and how it's stored, and where it's stored, and who can ask you for it.
You lost.
And who can demand you have. Oh, can you hear me?
Okay, say that again. I think we lost you for just a second.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
No, it's fine.
Yeah. No, so my questions I had is about the data, where it's stored, who can ask you for it, and by ask, I mean who can demand you for it, and what can you say in response? And how do you, and is there any protection for the user, considering we don't sign a hefty NDA with 1,000 different points when we sign up for, say, something like Teslascope?
Can legal get your data?
So
Yeah.
I'll kind of break that apart a little bit. So the all the servers are currently located in the United States. I have seen a couple either posts or messages about people who like live in Europe, for example, in regard to like the GRDP and so forth, and just kind of respecting data requests and so forth. So from the in regard to requesting your own data, there's currently a data export option through Teslascope, and that gives you kind of a very, it's not everything, but it's a very basic access to just, your, I think it's your driving sessions, your charging sessions, your vehicle, like kind of basic information. Now, if anyone at any time ever wanted a full, everything about their vehicle, I will always request for that. If it's the individual requesting for their own vehicle's information, I can happily find other ways to export everything. I actually, on one occasion, I have just literally given someone like a SQL just download of just their vehicle's information and so forth.
SQL command on the database, extract all the tables. Yeah.
Yeah. So on a very small level, that's already always accessible, always possible. Well, I'm always just an email away or a message away, and anything that is your own data is your own data. You can always have access to it. You can always request for it. When someone deactivates their account and they delete their account, everything is immediately deleted off the database. I think we have a rolling 3-day backup of all data just in case things go down. I always try to communicate that to people as well. So, if you do delete your data, everything on the current database is always removed. And I do keep track of the accounts that are deleted. There's actually a historical, it just stores the vehicle ID. And I think there's an option to include why you deactivated your account.
Right.
So if the case that the database is ever restored, I can go back to that and make sure to delete that data again immediately. But yeah, the second things are deleted, everything is immediately deleted off the database. There's no kind of a data retention. Now, as for governing bodies requesting for things, I think that was something that you hit on. Hasn't happened yet. If I am legally obligated, if there's some authorization, I'll obviously ask for it. If there's a court document, there's something explicitly requesting for this. Given that I don't think there's ever been an occasion where a third party has been requested that, because we have some data, but it's by no means as detailed as Tesla. So I feel like that would still be something that the NHTSA or anything else would go to Tesla for that information.
Right.
But I think if that were to ever occur, I will also either prior or at the same time send out an email to the individual or any individuals that are requested or as part of that request to say, hey, this governing body, provide a link to it, provide if it's not anything confidential, include a copy of that email as well, and say, hey, I had to obligate, I had to comply to this due to legal obligations. This is what information was shared. I'll give it, the exact same data to that person as well if requested, and just have as much transparency as possible.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's a really good answer. I mean, look, ultimately, when end users, if data has to become part of the user experience for a future Tesla owner or even present Tesla owners, right? And you want to let Tesla do their thing by making great cars for us, so that we can then, you guys do your thing by making great services like Teslascope for us.
Right.
We need to know what we're getting into, because Tesla makes us sign paperwork when buying their car.
Right.
Data third-party services don't make us sign anything when subscribing, yet they have collection to everywhere we're going, where we stopped, how long we stopped for, what locations. So we want to know that everything is secure, right? And I think that's the message that we're trying to convey out to the general public is fear not, because it is secure. A lot of thought gets put into the security aspect of things, because we know that our vehicles are treasure troves of data, and we understand that data is a very prominent topic in this generation, especially. I mean, with all the different ways your data can get shared in the public, in the general public, in the public domain, right? So, I think we've covered everything for this episode, guys.
Yeah, we just wanted to. I just want to add one point to what KK said. I mean, if somebody has something to hide, they probably are wearing either a tinfoil hat, or they're living inside an air gap bubble. So it's fine.
Awesome. So now a small special section. We're going to talk about some upcoming features. What's in store for Teslascope in 2021 and beyond?
So Tyler, it's going to be a busy year for me. So I think we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'm the sole everything for Teslascope. I'm the sole developer, the marketer, the customer service. I handle everything. So the time constraints are primarily the only thing that keep me from doing everything I want and accomplishing everything. But with that in mind, this year, 2021, it's going to be a really busy year. That some of the features that I currently have planned, it's the first glimpse of I'm planning a very, very large refactoring and kind of a revamp of the entire release notes system. So not only will you be able to sort things from actually just distinctly your vehicle's model, be able to filter things by country, by region, by language. There's already options for being able to access things in different languages, but making that a little bit more easy to access as well. I'm going to be able to, on the actual vehicle information pages, because each vehicle has a kind of a list of what updates they've gotten, just displaying the ones that your particular vehicle got. So it's not just displaying every single update that came out in that vehicle. Improving a lot of the determinations for that is a big thing for me next year. And there's going to be a lot of things focused around social ability and being able to share things, because obviously this isn't something I think I touched on this very briefly on the year in review on Twitter, but I always want to make sure that things that are social focusing are always optional, where people who just want to use data logging for that, just those purposes, can do so. But a lot of things focusing on social will be added this following year. One thing included will be able to upload and showcase pictures of your vehicle. So have a kind of a historical account of the adventures your vehicle goes on, pictures you take on road trips. Being able to include pictures on the trips feature on Teslascope is going to be a big thing. You can already share trips publicly, but be able to kind of attach little sentimental things and kind of give people more of add people more into the experience that you've shared. You'll be able to. This is something that I was gonna plan to keep a little secret, but I am currently underway of doing a major build out of being able to upload and share Tesla Cam videos through Teslascope. A lot of people currently just do so through YouTube, or if you want to show all the different views, you have to do a lot of editing. And there's a couple, I think open source projects where you can view things locally, but there's a lot of little issues with that and getting things to work. So I'm creating a fluid, easy way to be able to upload videos, be able to just click on and view the different views from the different angles of the vehicle. And instead of having everything through YouTube and having the ads in that regard, you can have it just all straight through Teslascope. Being able to either upload and actually have the vehicles itself should be anonymous, so you can just upload it and share it, or you can associate it to your vehicle page. So if your vehicle is the one that caught this vehicle and you want to show it off and be proud of it, if you saw something cool on the road, or someone waved at your vehicle on the Sentry mode, having everything in-house and kind of building upon that social experience, and making Teslascope more of just a worldwide hub, and the one-stop shop for everything Tesla. That Swiss Army knife brought up earlier.
That's awesome.
One more thing is as I said, last year was focused on kind of the core build out, but this year is going to be focused on building out a lot of the data access, data visualizations, having things like temperature efficiency is one thing that's been requested a lot by people, adding that to drives and so forth, and charging. Having better import and export options for other services as well. So like I love Tesla Mate. I haven't used it myself often, but a lot of people do. It's a self-hosted little thing. So being able to both export and import data through there. So if you want to take your data from Teslascope and go, or bring data from Tesla Mate, things like that, more inclusivity. I'm going to be working on getting more translations out so that more languages are offered and across the site, more currencies being offered. Just building upon the experience and making it great for everyone.
Oh, that's awesome. All these are stellar features. If once they come up, absolutely.
Super cool, man. Thank you so much, Tyler. It's been phenomenal to chat with you today. We've learned a lot about Teslascope and how the whole the platform data hosting side of things and data analytics side of things actually works. I think I've come out of this conversation a much more intelligent human being. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Nash, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Any closing comments? Anything you'd like to ask?
Tyler, thank you very much, mate. Really, I love the service. I use it all the time. We try to get as much data of our cars as possible. This is not an ad, but I am a paid subscriber for all my cars, for all of my Teslas, and
appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the work.
Me too, for my first Tesla and now my second Tesla. I mean, I find it hard to share. Like, I don't have 2 Teslas. I have one. I just replaced one with the other. But it's anyway, that's awesome. Mark, on the comments, I think we've answered every question you managed to give us today.
Absolutely.
And he says that's a lot of great features coming, and
Great.
that's awesome. Have a wonderful 2021, Tyler. I'm sure we'll speak again.
Yes.
Let's do this again at some point, mid-year or maybe the end of the year. Let's do a year in review for Teslascope at some point.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Immediately before you get hired by Tesla.
Before you get hired.
Yes.
That would be fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for everyone joining in the comments. Peace until the next time.
Yeah,